Protest art has existed as long as there has been the idea to dislike or challenge the structures we live in. It has been used to stir the flames of rebellion in people and revolutions throughout history. But how does art do this when, according to philosopher Roland Barthes, the work and author stand automatically on a single line divided into a before and after? If the artist cannot dictate or control the meaning of their work once it is separate from them, then how can art be created as a form of protest? First, we must define what we consider protest art. In order to do so, Rebecca Zorek introduces social practice as a mode of art making that often involves an individual artist in collaborative work with communities, often accompanied by anxieties, internal or external to the project, about implicit differences in status, authority, and access to resources. However, how does one decipher what this work is intending to convey? How do we know what it condemns and what it uplifts? The new critic suggests that the only arbiter of meaning is the work itself, requiring meaning to be derived from the formal qualities of the piece, such as the size, shape, material, etc. Under this lens, John Gelerts Police monument is simply a bronze statue of a police officer who raises his hand out towards the square he sits in. Perhaps it is meant to imply a sense of safety in the area, or maybe he indicates a strong police force. Before we continue, I'd actually like it if you took a moment to look at this piece and think about what it might mean. Okay, now that your answers are locked in, let's look at some historical context. Since part of these artistic traditions is how audiences treat the work at any given time, how did the people react to the monument when it was put up? To make a long story short, people hated it. After the erection of the statue, it would be repeatedly vandalized, destroyed, and even at one point run into by a car. The only people who did like it were the police, who would end up having to spend thousands of taxpayer dollars on its protection. For context, the statue commemorates an officer killed by a bomb at the 1886 Haymarket protest. Amidst contested historical interpretations, labor advocates demanding an 8-hour workday were met by 180 officers to disperse them. The officers had been violent while dispersing other protests, leading to a bomb from an unknown assailant being thrown. The statue stands as a protest against protest, an attempt by authorities to control the narrative of historical events. What art can do in its best and worst forms is reveal the mechanisms by which such powers assert themselves. And although the statue aimed to suppress protest, it instead sparked further dissent. Over time, the site became a memorial for the labor unions' lives lost, showing how protest art evolves with audience interpretations. The monument, intended to command halt to protesters, ended up mobilizing them instead. Ultimately, the police monument exemplifies how art can serve as a battleground for competing narratives, reflecting broader social tensions and transformations. Perhaps it is in the term social practice we can understand practice not as an art practice, but in the sense of preparation and training our imaginations for the better society we want to bring into being. As such, the artist's intentions with a piece cannot be entirely separated from it. During the creation of a piece, this intention imbues a certain quality into it that influences how the current and future audience interprets its meaning. When it comes to protest art, it is made with the intent of pushing audiences towards a sort of utopia that the artist believes in.